Articles 15 to 20 in this group because we've already done through Articles 15 before. And Mounty, I'll let you translate that.
네, 이번 주는 10조부터 마지막 조까지 이 논의를 할 예정이고요. 일부 이 조항들은 뭐 다양한 협의들을 좀 진행해 왔습니다.
And the whole idea is we're trying to break down the Constitution article. Like, why is it there? What makes it important? And should we keep it? Or how should it be changed? And I'll let you translate that, Mounty.
Yeah. So, 이 조용히 이제 헌법조항 10조부터 읽어서 핵심 가치나 설계원칙 뭔지, 이제 어떻게 이제 변경될 수 있는지, 왜 변경돼야 되는지, 그리고 시간 여유가 된다면은 이 설계 원칙 요것까지 이제 같이 좀 협의를 해볼 수 있을 것 같습니다.
Yep, and then afterwards we will come back together into the big group. There'll be the two groups will come back into one, and we will go ahead and discuss what we all found, summarize what we found with each other.
이 소그룹에서 협의가 끝난 이후에 다시 메인 그룹으로 다 모여서 이 소그룹 결과를 이제 공유하는 시간을 가질 예정입니다.
All right, so we'll go ahead and break everybody up into the rooms. Like I said, one Korean group, one Korean language speaking group, and then one English primary group is what we will have here. Let's stop the share. All right, and Eden and Philip, if you are you going to be? We'll put you in the English group to start, Philip, and we'll find out what ends up happening there. David, looks like you prefer English as well. We'll put you in English. So we're going to have, David, you're on mute right now. Actually, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. Aiden, 한국 사람 아니에요?
EOS면 한국 사람 맞아요. Aiden is Korean.
하는 언어는 뭐 EOS예요? 하는 언어 한국어예요?
EOS Korean BP.
All right, so I have you guys in the breakout rooms. We have 6 folks in the first room. I'm going to go ahead and I think I'll mute Dimitri there. Yeah, Dimitri, you have a lot of background noise, so I went ahead and muted you. But we have in the first group will be Aiden, Cheng Kung, Max, Mounty, Anna, and Eddie. And in that group, Mounty, if you could, we'll need a facilitator for that group. And so it could either be you yourself. Yeah. You'll do it? Okay. And Mounty, you guys can start, and you can choose anywhere from Article 15 to 20. Pick out, start with one article, and then if you have enough time, we'll go for about 30 minutes. If you have time left over, just go ahead and do a second article if you'd like, or more, depending on how fast you go.
Okay, I will, yeah.
All right. And then the other group will be 4 of us. We have English as David, Dimitri, and EOS just live stream, which I suppose will probably stay fairly quiet. So I'll be in that group as well. All right, we're opening it up right now. You guys should see a pop-up to go into your groups there.
This is exciting. So EOS Detroit live stream, I'm assuming you're not going to participate, and Dimitri is driving.
We might have Myra come in here shortly. She has been traveling, but she might make it. But yeah. David, you're on mute right now. I don't know if you're trying to talk. Okay, so I'll pull up the Constitution.
I'm just mumbling to myself, nothing important. So I have the Constitution open in front of me.
Okay.
I'm assuming Dimitri doesn't because he's driving. Don't read and drive. The Article 15 is termination of agreement, and that's the one that says if you don't spend your tokens in 3 years, they're stolen from you by evil gnomes. That last week.
Well summarized.
Do we discuss it again?
We've done that one pretty well, I think, last week as well. And there's Myra. Hey, Myra.
Myra's here. Yay! All right. If we go through this quickly, Myra's going to sing and dance for us. So let's bang on through. Number 16 is the one I want to discuss. That's developer liability. And it's only one sentence. If it's all right, I'll just read it out. Yeah. Members agree to hold software developers harmless for unintentional mistakes made in the expression of contractual intent, whether or not said mistakes were due to actual or perceived negligence. Does anyone have anything to say about that?
This one is a little bit sticky in my mind.
This one is illegal and unenforceable.
Yeah, I don't think it's really. The language needs to be seriously changed at least, and I don't think you can just have, especially with transactions, right? We can't have the bank just say, I'm not. If I make a mistake in transacting, then I'm not liable for that. It's your money. These transactions are going to be a little bit different in these smart contracts, obviously, but nonetheless, I mean, we can't have developers just saying, "Oh, sorry, I made a bug mistake and it's your fault," that kind of thing. We've seen a lot of that already in cryptocurrency. It doesn't really work. It doesn't help adoption. Users don't want to. They won't come back if they see that they lost their money, right? It's usually a one and done kind of thing. So I feel like this needs to be serious.
Yeah, that legally it's not enforceable. You cannot say that gross negligence or dereliction of duty is covered. It's not enforceable. You can't say that. And since this Constitution already defines developers as anyone who has created a contract, you're basically saying if there is bad software, you can't sue Dan.
Yves LaRose, you're on the train right now? Okay. It's funny because
I thought that was a massage chair.
I am currently on the train on my way to Toronto to speak at an event.
Okay. It's funny because David was just discussing, we're doing Article 16 right now, and you and I just talked about this last night. We have a Korean language group, and then this is the English language group going right now.
Sorry, guys. Can someone read their Article 15 again? I'm driving right now. Can I check? I just can listen and talk. I'm from home.
Do you want a summary, or do you want me to read the whole thing, Dima?
Please read the article, the body of the article.
Okay. A member is automatically released from all revocable obligations under this Constitution 3 years after the last transaction by that member is incorporated. After 3 years of inactivity, an account may be put up for auction and the proceeds distributed to all members according to the system contract provisions then in effect for such redistribution.
Thank you. So right now I'm more familiar with the topic and with what you guys talking about. And today on the Russian call, there was a good suggestion to have a glossary about different definition for some lexicon, for some words, because for some people can be not understandable. So to clarify some things, it will be nice to have in Constitution in future some kind of glossary. Thank you.
I echo that sentiment from Dimitri. I know that we talked about it in every call that I've been in.
I think David froze. I'm not sure what, he's got some lag. Go ahead, Yves.
Yeah, I was just saying, I know that every call that I've been in, one of the key issues is that there's no set lexicon, there's no set definition of terms. And I think that that would be useful for whichever constitution goes forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, need a glossary, right? put it up at the end.
Can you hear me?
That's better. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. For me, the clause in that oh, for fuck's sake. For me, the expression that's difficult to understand in that clause, that article, is revocable obligations. I have no idea what that means.
You're on. Let's see. You're back on Article 15 now. That's the one that yeah, automatically released from all revocable obligations. This is a term I don't know either. I can't fully tell you. You might have a better idea. When it comes to smart contracts, or to, I guess if you're already bound up in a smart contract and you have been for longer than 3 years, would you be then released from that contract? Like, say you had a.
I'm guessing it means obligations that are revocable, means things that are still in play. So if I buy your sailboat for 10 EOS, the sailboat is now mine. You can't take the sailboat back. But if I have a contract with Eve where he's going to come and rub my feet every Monday, then, and that's in perpetuity for 1 EOS at each exchange, that contract ends because it's revocable. And last Monday, great job. Thanks, Eve.
Pretty good contract you set up there with Eve. That's unenforceable, huh?
At current token prices, I'm happy.
It's a sweet deal at current token prices.
Especially considering all that travel involved. Yeah. I know that every group I've talked about Article 15 a few times now. Everybody wants to get rid of it entirely. Having people losing their money, right? It's just going to cause more problems than anything else. It doesn't seem like there's any real reason for it right now. There's no clear definition for why. Go ahead, Eve. I know you were looking to say something.
No, I was just going to echo that sentiment that it seems as though the fear of R15, so the perception of what it could do, is more damaging to the brand than what the intent of keeping it in there potentially could bring as a return on investment. So if the big argument was that those resources are being kept away from other users, which is quite significant in terms of perception of having this, in a way, non-immutable function to EOS. I know that some people and myself have been holding on to Bitcoin for such a long time, and I'm not transacting on the Bitcoin network. I don't need to. Those are used as investments, and it's possible that other people would, even though they might never hold on to their EOS for such a period of time, to not transact on a network once in 3 years. Just the idea, I think, might scare people away from even coming onto the ecosystem in the first place. And I think that likelihood is much higher than the likelihood of having so many resources that are being kept in private wallets otherwise could be used by the rest of the token holders.
I agree with Eve, and I used to read one article about the guy who lost everything, like by trading, I don't know. And his father, in the early times, bought Bitcoin and hid the private key. And then in the end, he found that private key on which there was like kind of like 5 Bitcoins. And the article was posted during that time when the Bitcoin was $18,000 US. So Bitcoin was laying there for, in such case, some people just hold in these things and do not use it. until they need, until they like something extraordinary happens. So this is they keep in this asset for force majeure situation. So we lose in this case if we just destroy accounts in 3 years. I think it should be some another solution for this, more prolonging time or some totally another solution. Thank you.
And also, as a blog producer, I mentioned that my community in particular was very vocal against this particular article in the Constitution. Therefore, even though I might personally like it, which I don't, but let's say I would, it doesn't matter, because as a blog producer, I have to respect the wishes of our community, and our community was very vocally against this particular article.
Let's agree 15 sucks and 16 is ugly, and go on to 17.
Sounds good. Yeah. You're a good summary guy, by the way. Maybe when we come back out, you can be our summary guy. 15 sucks, 16 ugly.
So 17, all rights and obligations under this Constitution are mutual and reciprocal and of equally significant value and cost to all parties. This, to me, is necessary. It's a fundamental concept in contract law. It's reciprocity. What did they call it here? They called it consideration, but actually in law, it's called reciprocity. And all contract in every country I've ever worked in has a concept of reciprocity underlying their contract law. I do not think we can be in a blockchain of business if we remove this. Whether it's written formally or whether it's just understood is different, but the concept needs to remain, whether it remains in the Constitution or not.
I think that if it does remain in the Constitution, I echo the sentiments shared by David. Why don't we rename it reciprocity? I'm not sure why it wasn't called that in the first place.
Probably the person who wrote this didn't have as much experience with contract law, or they come from a different background. They might use that term in Commonwealth nations. I don't know. We'd have to ask a Brit.
I'm Canadian, so we are part of the Commonwealth.
You're part of the Commonwealth, but you are grossly influenced by the US. Do not deny it.
David, are you from the US originally? Where are you from? You're on mute right now.
I'm better on
Ukrainian.
mute.
I'm Ukrainian. Guys, I still don't know what happened with Article 16. Why we skip it?
Well, David called it ugly. We can go back and take a harder look at it for just a moment.
So everyone agrees ugly. I don't remember what is in that. Can someone just read about 16, and then if it's really ugly, let's go 17.
16 says, members agreed to hold software developers harmless for unintentional mistakes made in the expression of contractual intent, whether or not said mistakes were due to actual or perceived negligence.
Oh, yeah. I'm not agree with this article, actually, my personal opinion. And I think everyone can say that I didn't know about that, or I did something in intention. So, yeah, I think it's ugly. If you call this ugly, then it's ugly.
Thank you.
All right. So
I don't know if this was mentioned, but I think that article is a cover your ass for Block 1.
Really?
Well, that's what's been hypothesized. Dimitri, you have a
What
little bit
did
of
Eve
feedback
say?
there. Can you hear me okay now?
Better. What did Eve say?
Eve, David was asking what you said.
Yeah, sorry, there was kind of a weird noise. I wasn't sure if it was me, so I muted myself. I was just saying, I think that my stipulation is that the Article 16 is really a cover your ass for Block 1, is my impression of it.
it's not really, I think, was it you, David, who said it's not really enforceable anyway? I mean, if someone
Yeah.
loses money, you can't just say, well, it wasn't our fault. We wrote all the code, but you know, it wasn't us. I mean, it's not going to work, right?
Yeah, you try telling that to somebody that you do a job for. Hey, I'm sorry I burned your house down. It was an honest mistake.
Unintentional, right? I didn't mean to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry I broke the engine you asked me to fix. I'm sorry I burned your computer. It was unintentional. I thought drying it in the microwave was a good idea.
Well, let's go ahead and do 17 then. I think, yes, you know, I guess we're sticking with 16 is ugly. At the very least, so, and actually Eve brought this up yesterday in the group. He brought up Dan's kind of change. And by the way, Eve, that feedback and background noise you were hearing was Dimitri. So he's on mute now. He was driving. But so, and Eve brought up Dan's kind of fix for this. I'll see if I can link it here in the doc. We got carried away talking about this yesterday, but it makes sense because the wording is better, but not perfect, I think was the general sentiment. I'm trying to find it right now. Okay,
Eve is making a meal of this conversation.
He's having his oatmeal, I see. Oh, nice. Wow. That train knows how to do it. So Dan's intent of code is law, his proposal for this to change this particular article, he says contract developers are not liable for damages caused by bugs in the code. All parties are responsible for auditing the code and the recording contract before use. Parties are capitalized. I'll put that in the chat as well. And still he's, you know, protecting his ass, block one's ass. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, Dan's an idiot. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say that probably once per call. That the idea that they're not held liable for mistakes, that everybody is responsible for reading the code is true to a certain extent. But if you go to a doctor and you say, look, give me your best professional opinion, and the doctor then kills your pet, kills your wife, he can't say, well, it was a mistake, sorry. You should have known better because you had the medical textbooks available to you too. No, everybody is not equally responsible. The professionals are responsible to a greater extent. That's why we have professionals. If you are a bank, Kevin, and I am a person, you have many more resources to invest in the code than I do. And if you write a contract that fucks me, and it's because of your negligence, you can't say, well, I didn't know any better, and you could have read the contract.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're very good at the analogies too, by the way, David. Like, I never heard so many good ones.
At the time, though, I think at the same time, I think there should be I get that responsibility is not shared equally. However, I think the intent of this, if we don't talk one in general, is to put some level of responsibility on the end user. And I don't think that that's absolutely bad.
How should this be redone? I mean, should it just...
How is it done in the real world?
Well, I mean...
If I hire you to do a job and you do a shitty job, you have liability. You can't say, I had equal chance to fix it myself.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And we have to also assume the user... We talked about how the user is never going to read the terms and conditions anyway. And they could... Of course, everybody then is claiming, well, I didn't read it, and therefore it's not my fault. Go ahead. I think Dimitri had a point, too, he was trying to make before.
I think in such cases, you know, if someone crossing a road in an inappropriate place and the car hit this person, pedestrian, so who is responsible? The driver responsible and the person responsible. So responsibility should be shared between two people. So it's like can be in percentage 80-20 or 70-30. Because, for example, user didn't read the contract or agreement, and developer who made it just did it some wrong thing. So both need to take responsibilities. Thank you.
What you just said, Dimitri, depends very much on where you are. If you are in New York and you jaywalk, you walk in the middle of the road and the car hits you, you have responsibility, as does the driver. But if you are in Boston or in Seoul, the entire responsibility is on the driver, 100%. And the assumption is people don't willingly go out in the middle of the street to get hit by cars.
That's true. That's true. I cannot disagree with this. But there should be some responsibilities on people to be careful with agreements and know what they're dealing for. Today, there was one question about the things what will happen right now. By the Constitution, all kind of actions or all kind of programs or dApps should be open source, and Constitution say that it should be open source. But we can see that many dApps right now is not open source. And so we do not know, if people do not see what is there inside. And they say an example about EOS BAT. EOS BAT is very big application dApps right now, right? It's a very big project, and one of the most active right now, but it's not open source. So here, on whom responsibility is about that? Thank you.
Milburn made a comment about this last call. He said that we should keep the contracts, especially the Ricardians, transparent. They must be visible, but that the code does not have to be visible. This seems like a good compromise. As a user, I should be able to agree to the intent, and that is what I am agreeing to. I cannot agree to the quality of the code. That is the responsibility of the coder.
I agree to what David just said. I think that having the users agree to the intent through the Ricardian would be good. At the same time, though, if we talk about statistics, it was brought up, don't quote me on these statistics, but it's something like less than 1% of people read, or less than 2% of people read the terms of agreement. When you have Ricardians so that they're human readable, that number jumps. However, it still remains under 10%. So as much as that's better, and I agree with that, most people still do not read the intents.
I'm willing to live with 10% or 7%, as long as it's legally binding. What I'm not willing to live with is Ricardians written in such a way to obfuscate or hide the intent, or end user license agreements that are written to hide the intent. Those should be illegal under our Constitution. The intent should be transparent, and transparent should include legible.
I have a question. How to prove if the mistake was inattentive or it's made on purpose? In the end, everyone can say, sorry, I didn't want to do that. It happened because there was a bug or mistake. But it should lead to some really huge damages.
This is a problem that we face in the real world all the time in order to determine intent, and that's why we have arbitration, that's why we have the courts. So this is not something that's new.
Yeah, then we get into the debate. Go ahead, David.
In the US, we're actually doing that right now with Trump. A lot of the editorials are talking about Mueller won't be able to prove intent, and which is something that needs to be proven under American law. We can only say that Trump is a fucking moron, but whether he intended to deceive people or whether he's deceiving himself is unprovable.
Yeah, of course. Then it becomes a scalability problem that we've talked about with arbitration, right? When we have so many cases flying through on intent, whether it was intent or not, it doesn't seem like it would be scalable. So
yes and no. I would say that the developer could not prove, but at least show good intent by ensuring that their application prior to release and prior to being made public has gone through a third-party security audit. The intent of having gone through a third-party security audit, getting that stamp of approval, if there are any issues, then fixing them. I think that that would show good intent from the get-go. I don't think that this would be a scalability issue as long as as long as the app developer did everything they could to display prior to release that they were good intent. That actually could be done. Actually, most of it could be automated.
Yeah, I agree with Yves. Good faith and good intent is fairly easy to demonstrate from a vendor's point of view. A bug was announced or a bug was noticed, and they made best efforts to fix it quickly, not hide it. That shows intent.
Yeah, they made it public. They did the audit. They released the code. It's open source. Like, it's all checkbox, check mark, check mark, check mark. Here's what we're doing in order to show, but we can't prove, or sorry, we can't ensure that there won't be any bugs. But here are all the steps that we're taking to ensure that what we're releasing is in good faith and should work properly as intended.
Yeah, kind of a good faith protocol kind of a thing. If you haven't followed these steps, then you would certainly be liable.
It could even be putting up a bond. Like, it'd be as simple as putting up a bond. If a app developer puts up a bond, that right there shows good intent, depending on the size of the bond, of course. But that would be another check mark.
Yeah,
I agree that a bond would show in good intent, but I don't want to make that mandatory because that locks out small developers.
Agreed.
We'd never have scatter if NS James had to put up a bond for every scatter user.
yeah, it's very true. Let's summarize here. We have about 3 more minutes when we go back into the group here. Article 16 is the one we should probably summarize what we're trying to get at. So we're saying the whole thing should be scrapped, or are we saying that we should, do we like Dan's proposal better, or do we need to basically say, look, here's the protocol for what would be the version 3? That's what I'm trying to get at from what we've said.
In my opinion, remove it all.
Yeah, there's no way to fix something that.
I agree.
I don't have a good
Just
adjective.
remove it and write down a new one.
Well, that leaves open the question. If we don't have anything at all saying who's liable for damages caused by bugs, there needs to be something in the Constitution that says who would be liable.
Developers are entirely liable for bugs if they, however, all contracts should be undertaken in such a manner to display good faith.
+1.
And
we need to figure out how to write it, but
due diligence and good faith.
Right. There should be responsibility. I agree with the.
Okay. Yeah, that also raises the question. We talk about smaller developers not having access. If they have to go through all these steps, if they have to hire a third-party security audit and everything else, that gets expensive. It'd be nice to see some kind of funding from the chain, or some kind of a group of block producers or something else that can come together and help provide those services for low charge or free.
I also like the fact that NS James has disclaimers. When he rolls out a beta, he says, this is a beta. Don't put money in this account. Don't put your main account here. Use the desktop version at your risk.
And I think that's where personal responsibility is important as well.
If I have a disclaimer on a piece of software like that, and then I use the software and I get screwed, I have much less ability to arbitrate against the developer. Now, if the developer has had problems for 6 months with this same specific issue, and hundreds of people have been hit by the same issue, then we could say, well, this guy's a thief.
All right. So yeah, looks like we are finishing up. All right. So we have to talk about personal responsibility. Obviously, with blockchain, that is the whole name of the game. We want people to be responsible for their own funds, right? Own their property. And that's kind of what this entire article is addressing. So it sounds to me almost like there's some level of, we want users to be responsible, but we also want to put the responsibility on the developers and have them show good faith. And that's the wording that needs to be, the balance needs to be struck with the wording of this article, whatever it ends up being, right?
I think, like Devin mentioned, what's important here is that the professionals, so the developers, the level of responsibility is not even. I think that the spirit of whatever we write has to capture that specific part, that I, as an end user, have responsibility, but my level of responsibility is not proportional. It's not even to that of the developers, who's clearly the professional in this particular instance.
Well said. Yeah. I wonder what kind of ratio we'd be looking at if we were to, you know, specify. It's like, oh, you know.
I think it's an 8 to 2, 9 to 1. I don't know.
80 to 20 or 70 to 30.
Pareto, yeah, 80-20.
Okay. Good deal. Let's we'll go back in the main room. I'm gonna hit the button here. You
I'll do it if I have to. So that's the way it'll work. Eve, you do what you know. I'll do whatever you can't, and I'll translate if it's needed.
Are we? Is it my turn to do it now?
well, the
Sorry,
Korean,
I can't see.
Korean group has just come back in. So, hey, Mountie, welcome back, guys. Everybody, and we'll actually, you guys were group number 1, so we'll let you guys go first, and sort of give us a summary of what you guys found.
Max, are you able to represent our discussions in English, or do you want me to represent? Yeah. Yeah. 그래서 okay, I will summarize our discussions. So we have touched from the Article 11, and as you expected, mostly focused on the Article 15. So the many members have big concerns, determinations of the agreement, and that is not fair without after 3 inactivities. But some other members agreed the meanings or the intent of that sentence because of other blockchain examples like Bitcoin. So some members suggested to expand the period by considering the existing the legacy laws, or some members mentioned not signing is also one of the user right. So if we think the user's right, then we also have to those right, or we also have to consider those right. Voting or the signing is one of the right, and not signing is also one of the rights. So by considering those concerns, then we also found Article 15 is also connected with Article 10, the choice of law. So the law is, if the Constitution is a conflict with the Article 10 choice of law with the local regulations, then how can we solve? And the issues we discussed is the vote rate. The currently over 15% of participants, and the vote can be the constitution can be changed. But when we think about the whales who holding the many percent of EOS, like B1 or some other whales, with a few members, the constitution can be changed with the existing definition at the Article 11. So this the threshold should be increased from these suggestions. And the other important topics, the reliability of the developer liability. So we also talked something slightly for the Dan's suggestion, the scope of a developer, how we can define the scope of a developer. So this is actually giving the software developer as totally no guilty. But when we define the developer just a coder, or we can expand the developer definition to the designer or the architect, or more, then we will also say the management is also one of the developers, or the if in the other case, the shareholders also can be developers because they are leading some direction of an institution. So the definition of a developer is also very important. That is summary.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, we actually discussed, group 2 discussed the same 2 articles. Like Eve, go ahead if you want.
All right, so we started off with Article 15, termination of agreement, and what we said, it was pretty much a general consensus that that article should go, and it should not be replaced, that the intent and the most likely ramifications of having such article are probably more damaging than the benefits of, the perceived benefits of such article. So that was, I guess, as quickly as possible. That's the summary of that one.
And Eve, if you can,
we also mentioned that.
Give Mounty a chance to translate as well, if you could. I forgot to mention.
Oh, okay, yes.
I didn't hear everywhere. So because of the line is muted.
I can translate.
Oh yeah, thank you, David.
Yeah, 15번 없애야 돼.
It should be discarded, is my guess.
Yes. 없애야 돼. 완전 쓰레기다.
Do you have?
Thank you, David, for that very brief summary. Excellent. So we also talked about how, regardless of where we go with the new constitution, there should be a set lexicon. There should definitely be a definition of terms.
Yeah, so the 용어 정의가 필요하고 중요하다라는 것도 이제 인식했다라고 번역할 수 있을 것 같습니다.
The next article that we discussed was Article 16, and here as well there seemed to be a consensus that liability and responsibility is a two-way street, that the end users have the portion of responsibility and the developers have a portion of responsibility. However, this responsibility is not equal. The developers, being the professionals in this particular instance, have a higher weight of responsibility than the end users. Therefore, there should be a mechanism the article should be rewritten in a way to indicate that this responsibility is not shared equally. And in terms of how to display intention, there are multiple mechanisms that can be used to display good intention, such as bonds, such as going through a third-party security audit, and various other methods as well.
I cannot translate too long. David, can you help?
I can make it shorter, Mounty. I can do the like 2-word if you want. So it should be rewritten, and when it's rewritten, it should indicate that when it's rewritten, it should be clear that the responsibility between end user and developer is not equal.
The end user, the 최종 사용자하고 개발자의 책임은 이제 동일하지 않고, 요게 이제 분명하게 이 정의가 돼야 된다. 이런 내용으로 제가 이해를 했습니다.
The developers have a much higher weight of responsibility compared to the end users.
네, 개발자는 end user보다는 훨씬 더 높은 어떤 책임을 져야 된다. 이렇게 이해를 했고요.
And to display good intent, in order to display good intent, a developer can do multiple things to show good intent. There are multiple ways to display.
David?
Yeah. 지금 말씀은 중요한 포인트는 마음이에요. 이 개발자 일부러 실수했는지 뭐 도둑짓 하려고 아니면 진짜 실수했어요. 그 마음 보여줄 수 있는 방법 여러 가지 있어요. 그 마음 어떻게 보여줄 수 있냐면 뭐 bond 있어요. bond 알죠?
네, 네.
예. bond 또 security audit. 또 뭐 문제 생기면 바로 고치는지 바로 안 고치는지 그 차이.
네.
그 여러 가지 행동으로 마음을 보여줄 수 있고 저기 뭐 사용자도 책임 좀 줄 수 있고 아니면 그 마음 안 보여주면 100% 책임 그 개발자한테 가요. 죄송합니다. 한국말 안 한 지 꽤 오래됐어요.
You are very good. So when I hear that, I also have another opinion for this is we also have to think about the beneficiary that is the representing the maybe the developers or software developers can be the at the front, but I think the final beneficiary should take responsibility. So that is another considerations we have to do. 그러니까 최종적인 이 혜택을 보는 사람, 요 소프트웨어 개발해가지고 혜택을 보는 사람이 책임을 져야 되지 않을까라는 그런 의견도 제시를 했습니다.
틀린 말씀 아닌데요.
네.
원래 저기 법원에서 그 얘기하시면 뭐 누구 베네핏 받았는지 누구 혜택 받았는지 보는 것은 소양에서 많이 안 보여. 한국에서 그런 것 좀 많이 있는데 소양에서 거의 없어요.
네. He said the case is different in Korean and the Westerns.
Yeah, in the West we tend not to look at who benefits as much as in Korea. So if a bank makes a deal with me and I win, in the West, we tend to say the bank screwed up. I get to keep it. But in Korea, I'd probably have to give it back. Or actually, in Korea, they tend to be reasonable. I'd probably have to give most of it back, but not all of it. Much more humanistic law in Asia than in the West.
Maybe we can discuss more for the developer liability at the Constitution version 2 of the time.
Yeah, and actually Dimitri said it well earlier too, Mounty. He said in chat, same opinion with us, agree with Mounty. It's good that we're getting some consensus on these two articles, since we both discussed the same article and it came back and we shared fairly similar thoughts on them.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, what we'll do is
the last one. Wait, we
Go
discussed one more.
Oh yeah.
We also discussed 17. 17. We need to change the name. 이 article 17번 이름 바꿔야 돼요. Consideration 아니고 reciprocity예요. I have no idea how to say reciprocity in Korean.
Could you post in the chatting room?
Yeah.
And I posted the actual article in English there in the chat as well. Article 17.
Is that spelled correctly? Oh, no, I sent it to Anna. Sorry. I don't know how to send it to, there it goes. Okay.
Yeah, this is not common word.
No, but it's part of every legal system for contract law. It means equal, 동의한다. If I do something for you and you do something for me, they must be equal value. You cannot have a contract that only benefits one side or predominantly one side. 한 사람만 혜택 받으면 이거 안 되는 안 되는 계약이에요. 양쪽에 비슷한 혜택 받아야 돼요.
It says basically basically words is equally fair to both or all parties, to all sides. So it doesn't matter who participated and do not give any benefits to any party. Thank you.
그 이름 말고 나머지 100% 동의합니다.
네.
이 17번 있어야 되고 아주
do you think this is the part of political issues? Maybe some members, if we emphasize this, then some member will have a misunderstanding. This is part of political issues. Like,
한국 법에도 이거 있어요.
네.
한쪽만 혜택 받으면 안 되는 계약이에요. 그런 계약 버려야 돼요. So this is a basis of contract law in every country. So Constitution에 안 들어가도 이 마음은 있어야 돼요. 이거 모든 나라의 법에 이거 받침이에요. 다 들어가요.
네. One missing point I didn't inform is at the Article 15, one of the legal participants in our group, he mentioned by the civil law 10 years. And by the another law, shortest term is 5 years. Just for your information.
For banks? 어느 상태에서 10년, 어느 상태에서 5년?
창근?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, in the civil law,
한국말로 하셔도 돼요.
예. 민법에서는 소멸시효가 10년입니다. 10년 보통. 그러니까 이 3년이 너무 짧다고 생각하는 겁니다.
네.
근데
어느 상태에서 10년이에요? 예를 들어서 은행에서 은행 계약
그냥
말씀하세요.
일반적인 법률 계약이요. 모든 계약. All basic contracts.
After finishing the conditions or contract actions.
3년은 굉장히 짧다는 것이고,
네.
그 다음에 두 번째 이슈는 투표권을 행사하지 않는 것이 무조건 어떤 암호 트랜잭션도 하지 않는 것으로 간주되어서 쉽게 권리를 박탈당할 위험이 있다는 것입니다.
He said no vote or no signing is also one of the right of a token holder.
Yeah, and Dimitri in the chat. And we should also make sure some folks will need to go and hop off the call, so we'll wrap this up. But Dimitri said he wants to avoid complicated language in the Constitution. I know Dimitri's driving right now, so it's harder for him to talk, but he's hoping that the language can be understood for all languages of the world. And the Constitution wording should be able to be understood very easily by everybody. And what we'll do is, if you guys could put one suggestion in the chat. So next week, and let me share this slide real quick. So next week, we're going to dive in more to Daniel Larimer's proposal. So he went ahead and wrote up a new proposal for how he thinks the Constitution should look. And so we'll do that next week. So with that in mind, what is kind of the one thing that we could do better next time? And if you could take 30 seconds and type something into the chat as to what could be done better next time.
네, 화면에 보시다시피 다음 주는 댄 라리버가 제안한 헌법 버전 2하고 기존 버전 1 비교하고 검토하는 절차 진행 예정이고, 더 좋은 방안이 이제 뭐가 있을지 좀 생각을 해서 의견을 주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. Yeah, done.
David is saying, "Don't make me spokesperson." You know, things of that nature. We'll keep. That's a good suggestion. But you're such a good spokesperson too, though.
I'm talking utter bullshit in Korean. My English is okay. My Korean is nonsense. I haven't spoken Korean for 20 years, and you can really tell because I can't think of any vocabulary.
Okay. And Dimitri is saying everyone should do the homework. So yeah, so we'll put out Dan's proposal, and we'll put it out in the Alliance publications, and just go ahead and read through it before coming on the call if you'd like, just to be ready for the discussions. His proposal is quite a lot different than the Constitution itself, and the main question we'll be asking, and Mountie, I'll let you translate this last part, but we'll be asking about, should we just go ahead and discard the first Constitution and accept Dan's, or can we find some kind of in-between?
Why do we have to listen to Dan at all? He's just a token holder.
Well, that's the other thing too, is
special at this point.
That's right. I mean, do we have to listen? I mean, do we like Dan's Constitution, or should we just discard it? I mean, what are we trying to do here?
Would we do this if Kevin Wilcox wrote a Constitution? Would we be having this conversation? No.
Definitely not. Definitely not. What the
so
difference?
Why are we doing this with Dan? Dan is nobody. I don't know why we treat him like a god.
Well, so he holds his own token weight, but also the token weight of many others who do still, value his opinion very highly. So we need to consider his, and I guess any others that are written as well. His is the most significant one, though, because there are so many people who still want to follow what he says. But of course, so the whole process that we're doing here is just to make sure, do the token holders actually want to do that, follow what he says, the majority. So that's the primary question we're trying to answer.
Yeah, so I agree basically, Davis, but we also have to see the current status for the users' opinions, so that we cannot ignore the dance or some other important persons. But basically, I agree, Davis, the voice.
All right.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'll be here next week, I hope. But if anybody wants to talk with me before next week about Dan's proposal to make sure that they understand the language, I'm available. So, 어느 한국 사람 dan의 Constitution 먼저 같이 읽고 싶으시면 연락하세요. 제가 이해하기 어려운 부분 설명해 드릴게요.
That's perfect. You're actually representing this slide perfectly right now, David. Any community leaders who would like to discuss ahead of time or on their own calls, please do. Absolutely. And not only that, but we'll help you advertise that and get the word out as far as possible.
God damn
if
it.
you want. Only if you want. I mean, let me know what you want.
Just yeah, go ahead. You can say on Telegram if any Koreans want to discuss the language ahead of time to make sure they understand it. I won't share my opinions too much on that call, but I'll try to explain the language.
Sounds great.
Yeah. It has to be a Zoom call or voice. I will not type Korean. My spelling is horrible.
Okay.
네.
But your spelling is quite good, and I also think that we really need specific, like the one is the right translator in Korean version, because Monty did.
Okay, I think she lost the connection.
Muted. Yeah.
I think we need really like specific version.
Anna, your voice was muted shortly.
We heard part of that, Anna, but not all of it. You're just looking for an official translator, it sounded like.
Okay.
And
David, ever think about if you don't talk on Zoom call, what if you come out an article, so you don't need to talk one by one? Maybe one of your sentences can spread to 1,000 or 10,000 people. Instead of discuss offline with one person, if you write down something, people can share as news.
Myra, I can't type Korean anymore. I haven't lived in Korea for 20 years.
Years, he said.
So we'll go ahead and finish this up too, guys. This is just the volunteer page. If you'd like to be a facilitator and host your own calls, and Dimitri's already done this. He went ahead and hosted a great Russian speaking call earlier today, I think it was, just a little bit ago, and I think it went 2 hours long. So if you'd like to do that, go ahead. Dimitri?
Yeah, it was pretty decent call with the Russian community, and they considering about a lot of changes in Constitution and ECAF. So it was pretty nice. On the call was about 15 people, and their Telegram group is more than 3,800 people in Telegram. So I didn't expect so many people in Russia is about EOS. Thank you.
That's great. I had no idea either that the Russian community was so passionate about EOS. So this is good stuff. And we've seen also the Chinese community got together and they were in a few calls together before coming into the Alliance call. So they brought some ideas already. And it's always possible one of these groups may form organically offline and go ahead and write their own version of the Constitution and make it very well known. And therefore, we would have an alternative to Dan's proposal from a powerful group that got together and hammered one out. So that's the kind of thing we're hoping for. You know, if you guys would like to start that process, please do. That's what this is all about. Just start your own calls and make it happen. If you need the training, though, come to us. We can always help you with how to get Zoom set up, you know, how to lead a little group of people and get the conversation going in the right direction. So, and of course, thank you guys, as always, for joining in. The schedule for next week is coming up shortly. It's going to be a little bit different, the call schedule. And Mountie, I'll let you translate this, but the timing will be a little bit different next week. We'll have that schedule up soon when we have more information.
Okay. See you, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Kevin, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Yeah.
Mountie, before you go, I'm going to send you a Zoom directly. Where are you on Telegram?
I'm on the Telegram.
I don't know your name on Telegram.
I will post.
Thank you.
Mountain Lee.
Okay, Kevin. The thing is, like, I think we really need the correct Korean version, because Monty did this translation just for these meetings, and then he just did it from Google Translate, and but these things, I think we really need a correct Korean version that make lots of Korean VPs or Korean token holders can talk about this. So
yeah, the reason I use the machine translator is I just want to.
I don't mean that he did a bad job. I mean he did perfect. This is very he need to do this in only 2 days. So I totally understand why he did this, but I think this there is a lot of language misunderstanding between the Korean and English, and because I can speak Chinese, I also joined the Monday's meeting, and I know that Chinese people, they're very they do a lot of translate from about this stuff, and they have very correct version of the Chinese version, but I think we don't have. But so I think we really need to find one person who can translate this one like very correctly. Yes, David.
Myra, it's going to be very difficult because good translation Korean to English is very rare. The problem isn't language, the problem is thinking. 한국 사고 방식하고 미국 사고 방식 완전히 틀려요.
Okay.
The mindset is very different.
Yeah, this is only my suggestion. Like it's
no, it's a good suggestion, but it's one that's very hard to fix. Professional translation is very good. Professional translation is very rare.
I know.
Even a simple word like no doesn't mean the same thing in Korean and English. If I say to you, oh, I'll think about that. Okay. That doesn't mean yes. In English, it means yes. In Korean, that means no. No, I'm not going to do that.
So I think in the many ways, I was not trying to prepare Korean version, but to help understanding the meaning. And then I thought it is necessary, but Constitution is very sensitive, so I cannot guarantee the accurate translation. So I just used the machine translating. But with the Korean community, we will be able to update this translation to better wording in Korean. So maybe Anna you will also be able to help for.
저는 어떻게 메이크업 하신지 너무 잘 알고 있고 다음에는 저희가 어떤 사람을 찾아서 좀 더 정확하게 하면은 저희한테도 더 좋지 않을까라는 의견이었었어요. 그래서 확실히 이런 헌법 정말 너무나도 예민한 문제라서 좀 더 많은 전문가들이 좀 붙여줬으면
그 애매한 것은 제가 설명해드릴게요.
네.
그 애매한 것은 같이 뭐 이렇게 비디오 콜하면 같이 설명해드릴게요.
네.
네, 알겠습니다. I will talk to you, David. I have some I can understand.
I think you cut out again. I think you cut out towards the end of that.
Kevin, send me Dan's Constitution.
Yeah, I'll send it over. Let me put it in the chat. And then also 2 things about Anna, responding to you. We are still looking for, and Orchid has helped us in the past, and Mountie, but actually we are looking to find a good Korean translator, and we actually are willing to pay a little extra to that translator who, someone who can really get the point across, as you said. So we're still looking, and Eddie has posted. Go ahead.
You need to talk to Huffs in Korea.
Who's that?
Huffs 아시죠? Just a second, Kevin. Mountie, you know Huffs, right?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah. 저기에 그 영어 통역한 사람 좀 찾으시면 될 것 같아요.
네. 그래서 이게 그냥 이제 번역이라기보다는 이제 법률적인 단어라서 단순히 번역해서는 좀 번역자도 이제 좀 부담이 생길 것 같고, 그래서 저도 고민하다가 그냥 기계 번역이 좀 이제 중립적일 것 같아서 그냥 쉴 수 있더라도 그렇게 해버렸거든요. 그래서 한글 번역할 때
machine translation is really bad though.
I know. Yeah, but the to be the neutral, so I choose. So this is sensitive. Translation, especially this is Constitution. So the translation is very sensitive. So
기본 법이니까. 네.
And we see there, Eddie has posted the EOS translation for the Constitution. Do you guys see that? Is that a pretty accurate translation from what you can tell?
Yeah, so in here also I can find some mistake, like open source means opening the source, but the meaning is a little bit different. Anyway, the legal translation is sensitive, so that is quite challenging.
I can recommend someone, but he's very expensive.
I know there's many good lawyers, and the
아니고 저기 비즈니스적인 동시 통역 하신 분이에요. 근데
we have
괜히 비싸요.
two primary things to translate. The most important would be the Constitution and even Dan's proposal, since we're going to be discussing it so much. We need the intent, we need everything to come across very clearly in Korean, but then also the less important, and hopefully it could be done by someone more cheaply, would be the translating the slides each week for these discussions. And that could be, you know, a volunteer or someone who just has an extra time and wants to make a little extra money. So those are the two translation needs that we have. I mean, if someone's expensive and you think they'll do a great job getting the point across for these important documents, maybe we should spend the extra money. That's the real question. But I need those contacts, so if you could shoot them over to me in Telegram, send me their email or their Telegram contact name, we'll get in touch, and Myra as well. We'll see if we can
I'll ask him first if he's interested.
That too, yeah. See if he has any interest.
But reaching out to a grad student at Hufts is probably the best way to go for now, I would think.
At Hufts, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. Hufts stands for what? What university is that?
I don't know.
Oh.
Some Hanwee University of Foreign Studies. Handok University of Foreign Studies.
Looks like
I don't remember.
Eddie might know.
I know some lawyers who have the lawyer license at the U.S. and Korea. So I think we have to request to translate, even non-officially, but the lawyer should translate, who is expert at the both language areas.
I'll tell you what, I'm putting my email in the Zoom chat as well. So copy down my email. Send out my email contact to the folks that you think would be good for translation, and we'll get this set up with them. And also, I would like to check in with Anna, make sure, are we answering your question okay? The question you brought up?
Yeah, of course. Like it was just my suggest, like just for better Korean, more Korean people joining the meeting. So it's just my suggestion. So thank you.
Yeah, we need absolutely. We need more Korean participation, ideally, because South Korea is huge in EOS, and I know it. I've been there. I was there in May, and I love seeing the passion there. So we need your guys' help in terms of spreading the word in South Korea about these calls. Start your own calls, or get them all into this call, or both. Let's get as much participation from South Korea as possible, because you guys will be so important in EOS, and therefore we need you guys' input when it comes to building these documents and making this work. All right, well, let's wrap this up, guys. Thank you again, and we'll see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.